over here. I saw you just recently at the big announcement at Slater Mill.
Yes.
The Pawtucket Red Sox.
Ran all the way here from Pawtucket.
You ran all the way from, you actually maybe might have made it quicker. I got stuck in traffic.
Well, as long as the traffic is due to construction, it's okay.
Michael's fine with that. Just call him, you'll be okay. Several hundred people there today.
Yep.
And when did you first get the nuts and bolts of the plan that they put forth today? I mean, you're in that world. You've got a lot of jobs at stake. The official release was released at 3. We're continuing to have coverage of this in terms of how they envision this Pawtucket state partnership and in terms of what the owners themselves are going to incur for costs. When did you first get one of the details?
Well, I've been kind of hearing rumors all along. I think the leadership at the Paw Sox learned their lesson with how they rolled out the 2015 idea here in the city of Providence, and went back to the drawing board. I give Mayor Gribbian a lot of credit, sat down with them, had a lot of patience, and I believe have come up with a partnership that truly will be something that is in the best interest of the taxpayers. So, I mean, I've heard kind of the rumors swirling around on the different, actual numbers, what the final numbers would be, but it's pretty close to what I had heard all along, which the majority would be from the Paw Sox, somewhere in the high 50s percentage that they would put up, $45–46 million plus any cost overruns that happen they would incur, and then a partnership with the city and the state as well. And the ownership of the stadium would rely with the city and the state. So it's a drastically different proposal than what was proposed down here on the water front in Providence, and I truly believe we're really excited about it because, what's the alternative plan for the city of Pawtucket? We've all been driving by that vacant Apex building for a long time and looking at both sides of the highway as you come around the curve, whether you're leaving or entering the city of Pawtucket. And I think it's a real exciting time, and I think that Pawtucket, Providence, are on the comeback, so we're excited about it. And I think all Rhode Islanders, once they get the opportunity to digest what's going to happen in front of them, they will be as well.
So I think one of the questions that came out of today, again, talking about the state's input, the state's monetary input, as well as the city's sort of what's going to be the green light, what needs to happen now at the state level. One of the things we saw today, postcards to Governor Raimondo stamped on them saying support this. So it looks like the appeal now is to the governor to get her support behind this.
Yeah, and I believe that Commerce had something to do with this as well. They were involved and worked towards a scenario that they could support, and it's my belief now that it'll be some type of legislative proposal that'll need to happen. So it absolutely will need the support of the governor as well as the speaker and the Senate president.
We're going to continue to break it down to find out more information on our end, but you clearly know what this would mean for jobs for your members. How many jobs are we talking?
I mean, we're giving a guesstimate just for the ballpark and the infrastructure surrounding it. The demolition of some of the structures, the Apex building, the remediation of the site. You're probably looking at close to $100 million worth of construction. I'll give you a quick guesstimate. It'd probably mean 400 plus construction jobs for a good couple of years in that area, and then whatever else pops up around it, where there's a lot of mixed use, a lot of hotel envisioned in there, office space. There will be there'll be other projects that will use that as the catalyst. But just the initial alone, just to get the ballpark up and running by 2021. I'd probably guesstimate about 400 construction jobs.
And your members will be pushing hard for this?
Absolutely.
So yeah, a several-year project. I mean, can you think of another project of this magnitude? Like, could you compare it to the mall? Like, what's something of this size and scope that's happened here in Rhode Island?
I would probably say a project of that size at this particular time would be something similar to the URI engineering school that's going on right now, in dollar-wise. As far as the scope, building a stadium is a little bit different than building a building or doing different things. The fact that it's got infrastructure in place, the fact that it has some necessary improvements along the riverfront, the fact that it's got some demolition in place, I would probably say that the closest thing that I could say in the current time would be the URI School of Engineering, where we had to go in and take out some old buildings, do some site work, some remediation, stabilize the soil, and now start to construct a brand new engineering school at the URI campus in South Kingston.
Now, at what point, because we had written today, clearly there's some legal battles over remediation at this site.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the Fogarty building when it's torn down and what your members can go in and do in terms of remediation. But is there a point where sort of other folks, if there's arsenic in the ground, is this beyond the scope of what your members can do? And do we need a different set of environmentalists or people to come in?
Nothing is beyond the scope of what my members can do and perform. Whatever the case may be, we go all the way up to what we call level A hazmat training. Some of the most dangerous chemicals we do, nuclear power plant decommissioning.
There's nothing you can't do.
Well, there's some nasty stuff that unfortunately we have to deal with from time to time, and depending on the level of nastiness, we've got the capability. So no matter what it is, there is a way, the more or the nastier the remediation necessary, the more it costs. But we do have the technical expertise to perform that.
Do you think that's something that should just be part of the discussion? They put some numbers forth today, but as you said, if you're digging around and find something else that needs more, should that be addressed beforehand as to who's going to incur these costs if and when something above and beyond needs to be done?
Well, I think if you're looking at the basic framework of the deal, the numbers are already there, that if the city and the state agree to put in their portion, that if there are any unforeseen issues with soil or what have you, that those cost increases to the projections we have today will have to be taken up by the Paw Sox. So I think that's something that in most of these type of deals, if you look across the country in Durham and some of the other areas that they use as a reason why we should do this in Pawtucket, they don't have these type of protections in there for the public-private partnership. And usually the public-private is 70% of public and 30% private, where this is closer to 60% of the private investment and a little less than 40% from the public. So this is a good deal if you look around. But as in construction, they're always unforeseen. But I think on this particular site, it was a department store. It wasn't like it was a manufacturing plant or some type of business that would lend itself for real contaminated site. So I don't think that there's going to be too much of that we don't already know.
So we're talking about these job numbers. You have existing membership. But talk about if there's a high school kid, someone who's out of work right now, is there opportunity for that person in Rhode Island who might be out of work and says, maybe this is an industry I should get into, who might not have any background or skills? Is it possible that either this would be potential for employment? I mean, how does that person who says, okay, this looks like a good career for me, talk with us how they would go through that process?
Well, it wouldn't even just be for this project specific. We've got a lot of different things that are happening, especially in the construction industry, which was hit pretty severely with the downturn and the recession of 2008. Our projections are going forward that we're going to need manpower with road works and things that are happening down here in the Knowledge District and now hopefully out in the Pawtucket area. Coincidentally, we just had the Eastern Seaboard Apprenticeship Council meeting here in Providence, and the last panel that I happened to sit on was to make a direct connection with the career and technical schools in and around the state of Rhode Island. I think there are 9 right now that we're focusing on to get a pipeline from juniors and seniors that want to be aware of opportunities in the construction industry, the unionized construction industry, under registered apprenticeship, to make that linkage and make those connections. So because we're going to need the men and women, this is the other 4-year degree, we say, apprenticeship. And the beauty about coming into the trades is after you're done with your 4-year apprenticeship, you don't have any college debt, and we teach you.
Well, that's my question to you. You're clearly hearing the governor talking about 2-year free college, 2-year free college. Do you think the state gives the same level of support needed to the building trades, to the apprenticeship programs, again, for those students who aren't going to go the traditional K-14, K-16 path?
I absolutely do. They started Apprenticeship Rhode Island. We're looking at using the apprenticeship model in other industries. The manufacturing industry has recently adopted, a similar model. You've got the boating industry that is looking at that. This can be applied to any industry. And I don't like the word when they say the free college. I like the word promise or even the commitment. Because nothing in life is free.
Nothing's
Even if they're gonna, give you the opportunity, you still have to put in the work and do the work and make sure you get out of it. What the time and the effort that people are putting in to offer you that opportunity. So I look at everything as an opportunity. But the governor, along with Director Jensen, have been huge supporters of building trade apprenticeships, non-traditional apprenticeships. They established Apprenticeship Rhode Island through the Governor's Workforce Board. So I think people finally started to realize, when we've been doing this for decades and in some instances thousands of years, that maybe there's something to this apprenticeship thing. We should give it a try. So it's catching on.
Things need to be built. And here we are in 2017, back in 15 when it was a separate, completely whole different deal looking in Providence. There was a lot of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens come today. Do you expect addressing folks who might be naysayers to the project for whatever reason? What would you say to folks that say, well, there's still some state investment and I don't want any of that whatsoever?
Well, state has to invest, as do cities, in any type of economic development. That's just the way of the world. So, no matter what it is, there has to be some type of tax treaty or some type of investment. It's just the way that business is done. And not just here in Rhode Island, but across the state. In some states, are more aggressive than others. But I would say, to the people who naysay is that what's the alternative? I've been in Rhode Islander my whole life, and like I just mentioned, I've driven by that Apex building thousands of times on both sides of that highway. And what's the alternative? What is Plan B? So you could project that the city of Pawtucket could pretty much look that way for another 30 years.
I have often heard it called the little Superman.
Yeah. So an incentive like this or a proposal like this would not only keep a Rhode Island institution here for another 30 years. There was another statistic that we had come across where people said, well, let's just stay in McCoy. So the guesstimates to refurbish McCoy and bring it up to AAA standards is around the same amount of money, $35 million, in a site that's really not conducive to families getting in and out of there in an industrial area that wouldn't have the economic catalyst for other things to go around it with other developments. And I just think it's a no-brainer at this particular point because your options are do nothing, Pawtucket stays the same way, and after 2021, the Paw Sox aren't here anymore. As opposed to making an investment, which I believe is very reasonable. It's cost neutral to the state. It's the city and the state own the ballpark. It's opened up to other events and hockey and football and all kinds of things. It'll be it truly will be a city asset that could be a game changer.
And could potentially McCoy, if this goes through, needs it to be demolished, potential for development there, potential for another asset for the building and trades.
Yeah, and if you look at that, there have been talks that could potentially be, a city center. I mean, you've got a couple of old high schools in Pawtucket. I know that the city hall is fairly old as well, but who knows? Maybe that could be the next, Pawtucket city center, and then you open up, those parcels down along the river as well for potential development if it makes sense and you look at it. But I do know that they need a new high school. I don't know if you've been in Shea and Tolman in a while, but they're pretty old, and they, so would you rather spend a considerable amount of money? I don't even know if you could save Shea, to be honest with you. And I know it's it's an institution and it's been there forever, but at some point when you look at these structures, it makes just so much more sense to just build a new, because making things, and I like when you make things old new again, because it's a lot more work for my members, meaning the laborers, but you have to be penny wise.
So we'll continue to see you at events in support of the Paw Sox moving forward.
Absolutely. We're going to be out. We have the chamber there. Usually when John Gregory was there today from the Northern Chamber, we've got a pretty good team. And usually when business and labor come together, Dan Sullivan there from the Pawtucket Foundation, the head of Coletti Tours. What's the downside to an extent? Well, you're always going to have naysayers, right? You'll always have a few. But, if business and labor come together and say, this makes sense for the state, this makes sense for Rhode Islanders, protects an institution, and all the things that I've mentioned over the last few minutes, the plan B is nothing changes in Pawtucket, we lose an institution, where do we go from there?
Well, we're going to continue to watch where we go from here after today's announcement. So I'm glad you were able to come into the studio, tell folks
Thanks
a
for having
little
us.
bit more about the impact, and we'll continue to be following this story closely moving forward. Michael Sabitoni,
Thank you. Nice
thanks
to
for
see
coming.